Hello everyone, I am Abhijit and I welcome you all to the presentation of our paper exploiting on-chip routers to store dirty cache blocks in tile-chip multiprocessors. This is the outline of my presentation. I will start with a brief introduction about multi-core processors, followed by a couple of interesting observations which motivated us to carry out this work. Then I'll talk about the proposed architecture with experimental results and analysis. Finally, I'll conclude the presentation giving a quick summary of everything. In the era of IoT and embedded systems, almost everything that we can possibly think of, from the simplest of mobile phones to the most complex data centers, all of them are realized by one or the other form of a multi-core processor. To understand with an example, the simplest of hand gadget that we use on a daily basis is powered with a quad-core or even an octa-core processor. These multi-core processors conceptually look like this, where they are arranged in a regular tiled fashion, and hence they are also called as tile-chip multiprocessors or TCMPs. TCMPs has processing elements or PEs, which has a processor component along with a couple of on-chip caches. Processing elements communicate with each other through an underlying communication framework called network on chip or NOC. NOC has routers that facilitate travel of packets from their source to the destination. Let us try to understand a typical communication in TCMP. Since on-chip caches are small, once in a while cache miss occurs, and that is when an L1 cache needs to send a data request message to the corresponding L2 cache bank. And messages in TCMPs travel as packets, and packets are further divided into smaller units called flits due to on-chip bandwidth limitations. Hence, L1 sends a request message to the corresponding L2 cache bank, and the request packet generally consists of a head flit. Upon receiving a request message, the destination replies with the corresponding data block, and a reply packet generally consists of a head flit followed by multiple body flits and ended by a tail flit. Going forward, since L1 cache is small and frequently accessed, a cache miss almost always evicts a valid cache block. Evicted clean blocks are discarded, whereas evicted dirty blocks are sent for write back. Here, core S sends an evicted dirty block for write back. However, due to temporal locality, if a recently evicted cache block is re-referenced, it needs to be brought back from the memory, which is expensive. Here, a core which has evicted a cache block in the recent past is requesting for the same block again. To understand how frequently this may happen, we conduct an experimental analysis with SPEC CPU 2006 benchmarks, and we found that evicted clean blocks are re-referenced within an average interval of 9,000 cycles, whereas for evicted dirty cache blocks, the re-reference time is even smaller. So we conclude from the graph that evicted cache blocks are re-referenced within a small time interval. Going forward, let us take a moment to understand what happens inside a router during a packet travel. Every incoming packet gets buffered in input port and take part in routing and arbitration. So for example, we have this packet entering the router. It takes part in route computation, followed by VC allocation, followed by switch allocation, followed by crossbar traversal, and the packet goes out of the router. However, existing literature claims that these router buffers or VCs are underutilized. To validate the claim, we conducted an experimental study and found that at least one VC is always free except during peak network congestion. For example, if we look into this graph, then we find that close to 95% of the total execution time, at least one VC is free. Now we have two observations. Number one, that evicted L1 cache blocks are re-referenced within a small time interval, and number two, that router buffers are underutilized. So if we merge these two observations, we can come up with a solution where we keep the evicted dirty cache blocks locally stored in router buffers and facilitate local replies when the same blocks are re-referenced in near future. This is the existing architecture, and this is our proposed architecture where we add a local store, a local reply and block forward unit or LSRBF unit that implements our proposed optimizations. We add threshold counters per virtual channels to facilitate time-based block forward, which will be discussed in subsequent slides. We add a pair of mux and demux to bypass the crossbar when we generate local replies, and we modify the packet header to include two additional flags, dirty and local. For local store, when a packet enters the router, the LSRBF unit checks the dirty flag of the incoming packet. If the dirty flag is set, we know that the block can be locally stored, and hence we disable the VA and SA unit and set threshold to some predefined value. By doing that, we logically cut the output port path of that VC, and hence the block in that VC is locally stored as long as it is not interrupted. For local reply, when a new packet enters the router, the LSRBF unit checks the request address of the packet with the addresses of all the available stored blocks. And if a match is found, the corresponding threshold is reset and the VA and SA units are enabled. We also set the local flag to indicate that it is a local reply and swap the source and destination of the stored packet with the new packet to send it back to the L1 cache which has requested the block. We bypass the crossbar with the help of additional mux-demux pair to send the local reply. The matched block is sent to the local output port and the request packet is silently dropped as it need not travel any further. We cannot keep the evicted blocks stored in the local routers forever due to router buffer contention. And hence, when a corresponding threshold reaches 0, we enable the VA and SA to forward the block for write back. However, there might be a case that the same block which is now locally stored is requested by other cores in the L2 cache. In that case, the L2 cache sends a trigger message, and upon receiving such message, we enable the VA and SA units to forward the block for write back. Both L1 and L2 cache is unaware of the proposed optimization. For example, during local store, L1 cache thinks that the evicted block is on the way or already reached L2 bank for write back, whereas L2 cache thinks that the evicted block is on the way. And during local reply, L1 cache thinks that it has received a reply from L2 cache bank and not from the local router, whereas L2 cache thinks that the evicted block is still on the way. During network congestion, when all the VCs are full, a locally stored block is immediately forwarded by our optimization so that we can make room for new injection. To preserve the states of evicted cache blocks and maintain cache coherency throughout the system, irrespective of the state a block is requested in, we send a local reply in the same state as it is locally stored. Our system configuration is very similar to Intel Xeon Phi processor 7235, and we used Gem5 simulator to implement our optimization, and we also used Descent simulator to get the network area and power overheads. For our performance analysis, we have considered three architectures where the baseline architecture is without any optimization. The TTBF architecture is where the stored blocks are forwarded based on a time threshold as we have discussed. And the MTBF architecture is where the stored block is forwarded based on both a time threshold as well as a trigger message from the L2 cache, whichever is earlier. All our results are normalized with respect to the baseline architecture. We have created multiple random benchmark mixes to evaluate our performance and considered network stall time, mislatency, and speed up as our performance metrics. Across all the benchmark mixes, we have achieved significant performance improvement with respect to the baseline architecture. Additionally, we have conducted sensitivity analysis for different design parameters. For example, we were interested to know what are the smallest re-reference interval for various benchmarks. What is the impact when we vary the time threshold in our optimization, and what will be the impact of increasing or decreasing the number of virtual channels in NOC routers. And these are the different performance and values that we have received. With our optimization, the additional LSR BF unit works in parallel with the root computation unit, and hence it is not in the critical path of execution. The addition of LSR BF unit and the threshold counters in each router has an area overhead of 1.02% and a leakage power overhead of 1.03%. However, due to significant improvement in system performance, we achieve a 4.1% improvement in dynamic power than the baseline architecture. To conclude, we learned that evicted L1 cache blocks are re-referenced within a small time interval, and we know that on-chip router buffers are underutilized. Hence, we proposed an optimization to keep evicted dirty cache blocks stored in the local router buffers and facilitate direct reply upon re-reference. Our future work includes considering evicted clean cache blocks for local store and reply, and also looking for additional storage in and around on-chip routers. That's all from my presentation today. Due to the time constraint, I could not explain everything with sufficient detail. However, if you have any questions or are interested to know more, please send me an email in the following address. Thank you for your attention.